let's talk about when we were young, because I think it kind of dovetails into, looking at this as an opportunity for musicians out there in the marketplace, looking for, opportunities to differentiate themselves and do something unique in their local market. So you just got back from a 2-day festival that more or less celebrates that era. And they went so far this year's where a lot of the bands were playing, seminal albums front to back, which is its own,
Yeah.
there's some controversy there as well. But what was the vibe of going to a show like that, where it is this big multi-day event and it was expensive and you had to fly there? And what was the overall experience like?
I think if anything that kind of pains me the most is the price of all this stuff, right? Like I really do think that the music and the fans are still there. You can imagine how excited people were to see Cartel, for example, right? Like, yeah, Cartel is one of my favorite bands growing up, and I'd never seen them, and I was super stoked to see them, and it was packed to watch Cartel. So the love for the music and the bands and kind of these legacy acts as they were now, it hasn't gone anywhere. Like I said, maybe it's being old and remembering the days of a $40 Warped Tour ticket, that kind of like pains me to pay as much money as it costs to like fly out to Vegas and go to this 2-day festival thing. Honestly, the festival vibe for pop punk music is kind of weird as is, right? Like it's kind of it seems like a thing that like EDM, artists put on. But the festival in itself was really great. I really enjoyed all the music. All the acts were great. The bands that did play full albums kind of stuck true to their word and played a lot of hits that everyone was excited to see. I have no major complaints about it other than, just the cost and overall, like, man, is this, this is quite a bit of money to spend on a lot of bands, frankly, that I've seen before. But, it's kind of maybe that play of like, this might be the last chance you get to see Cartel. Right. So kind of one of those things.
Did I tell you that my original band did an EP with Zach and Kenneth?
I think so. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we chatted about it a while back.
Yes, on their Instagram, they're like 15 bands we produced are on this thing this weekend.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And like I said, it's I don't think the music's going anywhere. There's still some diehard fans out there. Me being one of them, I guess, because I paid the tickets. I think I also bought the tickets because I saw Blink and Green Day play the year before, and I kind of kicked myself for not going. I was like, yeah, I should go. And then Cartel announced they were going to be on it, and Say Anything was on it, and I was like, okay, I'm in. So that was kind of my ticket in, and my wife was kind of rolling her eyes a little bit, but then we went, and she was like, oh yeah, this is a great time. I'm glad we went.
Well, and kind of speaking again to the market and the customer base or the whatever this population is, what kind of stuff were they like hawking in regards to this era or this genre of music?
Yeah, the merch thing, like I kind of avoided the merch line altogether because it was so long. For one, I don't really care about festival merch itself in terms of like the fest. I'd rather get the band merch. That's kind of more my interest. But yeah, they were selling all kinds of stuff. They were selling shirts that had bands' names spelt wrong, and that's the reason.
New and Glory,
New and Glory, which I love that New Found Glory put out a shirt the next day that was like them kind of making a mockery of not getting the band name right. But yeah, that doesn't leave a great taste in my mouth whenever you see the promoter of the show can't get the band names right. It feels a little bit like a money grab, to be honest. But in terms of the show itself, it was great. But yeah, they were hawking that kind of stuff, festival shirts and stuff. Like I said, I kind of avoided that personally. It wasn't quite as I remember like the Warped Tour being, where you'd have like all the bands kind of selling their individual tents. They had just kind of the Live Nation of marching, you know what I mean? Where they
Sure.
have a single huge tent and you got to go join that tent. So it kind of, that stuff kind of leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Just cause I don't preferably, want to work with Live Nation directly like that, but, it is what it is.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if there was like a midway or like a place where like people had, booths set up outside of just the normal, just t-shirt and,
Yeah. Yeah, I miss that vibe, right? Like we were talking, my wife and I were talking about that. Like, do you remember the days when Adam Lazaro would be down here, at a merch booth and like signing stuff or selling you a t-shirt? And like, I miss that kind of thing. But I don't know that there'd be room for it, honestly, down there. It's like, it was chaotic. Just in terms, not so bad, in terms of like a festival, but where you would have put like a midway like that, I'm not sure.
Interesting. I'm curious to see how the reintroduction of Warped Tour next year affects this particular festival, because I mean, they basically were filling that gap, and I don't know. It seems like a strategic move on whoever's part to kind of reclaim that market share
Yeah.
that, they unintentionally or intentionally, got rid
Abandoned.
of,
Yeah.
or yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good way to put it.
funny thing is actually I went to the punk rock museum on Saturday, the day before I went to the fest, and Kevin Lyman was there giving tours, and
Yep.
so he people were asking him these questions like, "Hey, who's going to be on it? You know, how involved are you going to be?" and this kind of thing. And he was pretty tight lipped, to be honest, understandably so. But yeah, I had the same questions whether Warped kind of saw it and they were like, "Oh, we're caught on our heels a little bit. We should have been doing this the whole time." Maybe
Mhm.
I don't know. But maybe the absence makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing too, right? Not sure.
Well, and I mean, it had to have felt good to be amongst so many people who are fans of that music, especially like bands that are covering this kind of music. You probably felt like, smartest kid in the room, because like I can now go back and use songs that you saw that did better than you thought they would, or whatever, stage show tricks or whatever that these bands are doing to, that you can now incorporate into whatever you guys are doing.
Yeah, once the venue green lights me on having some huge flame shooters, like I'm on it. Once I'm on it, I'm not sure,
Nice.
but no, I mean, it is cool to see like what songs resonate, which albums resonate with people, because it's kind of the thing with your Warp thing too, right? Like it's kind of a guess, right? Like we talk about this a lot
Mhm.
in the Slack, like even with non pop punk acts, we're kind of guessing at what people will like, right? And a lot of that is based on like what we like, right? And
Mhm.
there's a lot of that on our set list too, right? Like I said, we like the Misfits, and so we play the Misfits. But it was interesting to see, how much draw some of these other bands have that, like, to me, I may sleep on. For example, like Pierce the Veil. Like I'm, probably
Mhm.
just I'm a bit out of that market, or was whenever they came out, and so I kind of slept on them for a long time, and they are massive, and they have a lot of good songs, and so it's kind of like, well, are we kicking ourselves by not adding some of this stuff? Maybe we could, kind of continue to grow that younger base by playing some of these, slightly younger acts.
Yeah, add Devil Wears Prada and,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
some of those groups. So now I want to get into like the tea, because I wasn't at when we were young, but I saw a lot of clips coming back from some particular bands, and you know one of the things in it's interesting because to me this feels like boomer just music stuff, because we hear a lot about music fans who are mad that singers don't sound the way that they do anymore, whether they're using backing tracks or heaven forbid lip syncing. And there was a fair amount of that chatter going on for this show also.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I have talked about it. I think the whole Slack has this, does the audience care, right? Like that's the question we kind of go back to. I think in some cases they do, right? Like I do think when Adam Lazzara gets on stage for Taking Back Sunday, you would love to hear him be able to sing the songs he can sing. I don't know that he can, right? I've seen him multiple times. They've always kind of been that way. So if you're used to that, then you know what you're getting yourself into. For people that are kind of casual Taking Back Sunday fans, or had never seen him live, you were kind of maybe in for a little shock there, and it's kind of raises the question of like, when's the time to reach for tools, Adam? Like I don't know, and not you directly, Adam.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, no. I won't take that personally, though I very well could. But the other thing to consider, it's the casual fan versus the people who have been around for a while. Those of us who have been in this for a while know that Adam has always been like very inconsistent live. Never mind the fact that a lot of the stuff that they do is impossible to sing,
It's some of the
period.
hardest music to sing. Yeah, yeah. So
As a person who has done Make Damn Sure in the original key live, it's one of the most challenging songs to sing. End of sentence.
yeah, I think for most of us that have been along for this whole ride, yeah, I kind of wish they would just drop the key, right? Like just drop the key, give them a chance, give them a fighting chance. I don't know whose decision it is on their team that refuses to do that. But like I said, I've seen them enough times to know what I was getting into. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, it's fun to sing the songs the way I remember them, right? So, it's kind of one of those deals. But then there are other acts, that I think there were some accusations of some auto tuning and some maybe lip syncing going on and stuff like that. And going back to does the audience care? I couldn't see many people that cared. Like I couldn't. There were a couple of things that I had some questions about, just being familiar with the production side of things. Do I care? No. Do I care that We the Kings comes out with a bunch of backing tracks, not at all. Not at all. I don't care. Do they sound good? Yeah. So if people are having a good time and enjoying it, I think the rest of it is kind of maybe just gear talk for us, right? It's kind of we get in our own heads for musicians in terms of like whether things are appropriate or not.
So you're not mad at Craig for lip syncing half of Chiodos' set?
Well, I didn't catch most of it.
Allegedly.
I didn't catch most of it, but I caught the tail end of the song, and it sounded great to me. So that's what I'll say.
Pretty easy to do when you're.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. I'm just being difficult because the conversations that we've been having about Frankie Valli in the Slack it's the exact same conversation.
Yeah. I mean, that's the question, right? Like, does it allow the band to go out there and still play music and make people have a good time? If that's the case, and people are enjoying it, then maybe use those tools. I'm not the arbiter of what's punk rock or pop emo or music in general, right? I can have my own opinion. That means, that may mean that I might not go see Frankie Valli, right? But I think it's for each band to kind of make their own decision. Is it cringe? I don't know. Maybe.
The interesting thing is thinking about this specifically through the Taking Back Sunday lens. What would people in their fan base or in this particular world be more upset about? Would they be more upset about Adam Lazzara lip syncing to the studio track and it sounds amazing, just like it does, like the way you remembered, and he's up there and he's being super charismatic and it sounds great, or he's doing it live and it sounds the way that it sounds?
Yeah, I mean, that's the balance you got to strike, right? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for that. I think being in this community, there is a lot of like, traditionally, there's been a lot of gatekeeping kind of punk sphere of music just in general. And I frankly think a lot of it's stupid. I'm not so bought into it. Although I will say, I grew up listening to a lot of NoFX and stuff, and I posted something about NoFX recently, and people are like, "Oh God, they're so awful." And live, yeah, they're pretty bad. Like the Fat Mike isn't a great singer, but you know what? It's a fun show. I think that it kind of depends. If Fat Mike were to throw auto tune on or lip sync, like I wouldn't be so stoked about that. Like for taking.
I just want to hear what it would sound like to auto tune Fat Mike.
Yeah, it would be pretty wild. I mean, my hunch is there may be some subtle auto tuning going on in the albums for sure, but if you came out with like a T-Pain vibe, that would be that'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, I think
there's no time to do it now. It's over
for sure. It's done, right? It's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I go back to that. It's like maybe a case by case scenario. Maybe it's my favorite bands. Like I'll kind of overlook it. Maybe if it's bands that I'm kind of a casual listener, I see them lip syncing and I'm kind of like, not for me.
Yeah, it's just been the most in focus thing recently is a lot of these bands kind of coming back, and even like seeing My Chemical Romance, doing the Black Parade. I know that there's a lot of folks that were really stoked about that, and it sounded like the band sounded great, but as vocalists age, some of that stuff is going to fall out of their ability. And I mean, Gerard is creative enough where he can adjust the melody lines and everything still works, or just let the audience sing it. Mm-hmm. The one thing that kind of cracked me up is a lot of the reviews that I saw, there was like a particular checklist on whatever band was playing, and it was, did I see crying in the crowd? Yeah. Whether it was like a check or like a red X. And there was a lot of check marks, specifically during, MCR's set.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in the name, right? The emo stuff, right? Like people do get emotional seeing these acts, especially if there's, you haven't ever seen My Chemical Romance. It's a pretty eye-opening thing, right? Like it's like, especially if it's one of your favorite bands, it's pretty emotional up there. There's a lot of dust in the air, I think, during some of these sets, especially for folks like me. Like I said, I love Cartel and I'd never seen them. Me and my wife looked at each other when we were singing, like, honestly, we're like, I can't believe they were seeing this right now at our age. It's kind of one of those moments. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I shed many tears myself. I wouldn't admit to it, at least. Right. But yeah, it was a good time, man. It's just fun to see people still kind of caring about this music. Right.
Hey man, I'm not above saying that, if you catch me at a Jimmy Eat World show, I'm going to be in my feels.
Yeah, that's us too. We're huge Jimmy Eat World fans over here.
They play anything off Futures, like I'm toast. Like that's
yeah. And you know, there was some conversation about that too, where people are like, Jimmy Eat World really brought the mood down on the you know main stage right before I think A Day to Remember played after them. Which like I get kind of the juxtaposition of like A Day
Yeah.
to Remember and especially Bleed American, but yeah, you know, I think that that's the other thing too with this genre is like it is pretty broad, right? Like I said with the term emo, like you can fit almost anything under it, you know. So there was Millionaires played and stuff like that, which is
Yeah.
kind of like the party, you know, it's like a club music almost, you know. But
Did you see the ASL translator?
303.
For 303, but specifically for Millionaires
Oh
also.
no, I did not.
Oh man, they were putting her to work.
Yeah, yeah,
The lyrics on those songs are absolutely just
bonkers.
unhinged. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you don't know what we're talking about, you should look them up or don't.
do or don't.
You might be upset.
Yeah, yeah.
It is upsetting.
At your own peril, I suppose, right?
Yes, it wasn't like I Set My Friends on Fire was playing or anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, it's I had a blast. Like I don't know. You know, I'll see what the lineup is for next year. Maybe I'll go again. Maybe I'll try the Warped Tour thing. We'll see. You know, I don't see myself in the next year. You know, getting over the bug that is emo and pop punk. So we'll see if I'm out to another one.
Fantastic.